to another episode of Memorable Moments in Topeka History. I'm your host, Harold Gingrich. You can see from the road construction that's going on behind me, there's a lot happening here. Most of us have grown up taking paved streets and concrete sidewalks for granted. But go back with me 100 years. The streets of Topeka were dirt. They weren't even gravel. The sidewalks, if there were any, were constructed of boards that quickly aged and rotted and broke. Treated lumber like we have today hadn't even been developed or discovered in those days. So when it rained, well, let's just say the streets and the broad walks quickly became a muddy mess. The Topeka Historical Society does have some photos of Topeka from the early 1900s. Those do show what appear to be concrete sidewalks, but we don't know when those were put in. I remember asking the late Mary Jane Seagly, who was born in Topeka in 1896 and lived to be over 100 years old. She was sharp as a tack. And I asked her what was the most memorable thing that she could remember happening in Topeka. Without hesitation, she said, the paving of Main Street. Mary Jane went on to talk about the fact that years ago, the hemlines of women's dresses were much longer than they are today. In fact, the bottom of a lady's dress would often brush against the ground. So if she had to cross a dirt or muddy street, she'd need to lift that skirt while she maintained her modesty so that it didn't get soiled. And you can understand why having paved streets and sidewalks brought such great joy to the ladies. Well, the dirt streets of Topeka occasionally needed to be graded. So you can see here a photo of two men grading the streets of Topeka who stopped long enough for a postcard photographer to snap their picture. Now, we don't know who these men were or when this photograph was taken. Town records do show that in 1816, a J.E. Harold was hired to do street work for $2 a day. If he used his own horse, or team and wagon, he got paid $3 a day. The June 15, 1922 edition of the Topeka Journal published a notice to business owners and homeowners living along Hawpatch Street that there would be an assessment charged to them for road improvements. Now, we don't know how much that turned out to be. The following August of 2022, some 30 years after the town was originally platted, the town of Topeka awarded a contract for $18,946.40 to have Hawpatch Street, which is now Main Street, cemented. Well, in today's dollars, that amounts to over $376,000. For the time, that was a significant financial investment. Unfortunately, we don't know who was awarded the contract, but we do know is that this was long before the days of modern ready-mix concrete trucks. The gravel, the cement, and the water had to be mixed, presumably by hand. We don't know where the gravel came from. Presumably there was a gravel pit east of Topeka and one west of Topeka. So we don't know if they used gravel from those pits. We know from the Topeka Journal that the actual cement work began on Monday, April 23rd, 1923, and was expected to take 90 days to complete. Business owners still had customers that they needed to come in and to have them buy goods. So almost every week from April to July, there were notices published in the Topeka Journal telling patrons how they could access their places of business. On July 19, the Topeka Journal, this is 1923, ran a note on page 4 that said, Main Street pavement was open to traffic Monday from the south city limits to the corner of Lake Street. Work is progressing nicely on North Main, and last night the machine stopped in front of the Gerber drugstore. Now that news item contains several interesting details. First of all, Lake Street, as we know it today, which runs east and west through the main intersection here in town didn't exist. In all likelihood, it was Mill Street, as we know it today. That is a block south of where I'm standing. Second, the words machine are intriguing. It tells us that while the cement may have been mixed by hand, they used some sort of machinery to level the concrete and to make it uniform. Well, whoever did the concrete work did a great job, because over 100 years later, town employees tell me that there are still portions of that original cement street that have now been overlaid with concrete, but they're still there. And they tell me the cement is somewhere between 8 and 10 inches thick. Keep in mind, that was a long time before the heavy semi-trucks that we have on our roads today. Main Street in Topeka was certainly built to last. Well, thank you for watching. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel and join us again next time when we take another look at a memorable moment in Topeka history.